Hello and welcome to a special episode of the Scottish Football Podcast. Ahead of the new season, we are going through each Premiership club and asking what their fans can expect from the season ahead. And in this episode, we are going to focus on Hibs.
That's better, Mulligan now. Josh Mulligan deflected, save, Chris Cannon, surely! There it is, Chris Cannon! Incredible scenes inside Easter Road! That's Hibernian hit the front once more in the tie!
Fiji on the end of a through pass, showed a lot of composure, just took the little touch and side footed it into the back of the net. Well taken goal on the break.
We've let ourselves down post split. There'll be obviously a lot of time now to reflect. This is what the end of the season is. We'll take the time to reflect on the full season, and I'm sure every coach, every manager across the country will do the same. What if here, what if there? But ultimately, after 38 games, the league certainly doesn't lie.
The Scottish Football Podcast from BBC Sports Scotland.
And alongside me to do so, Mark Atkinson, sport editor at The Scotsman, who I believe is joining us from sunny Cyprus. Mark, how's it going?
It's pretty hot here, but yeah, you're right. It's sunny Cyprus. This is my pre-season training, I would say, ahead of the real thing starting in a couple of weeks' time.
And also alongside us, Harry McArthur, Hibs fan from the Down the Slope podcast. Harry, last time we spoke, you were gloating in the face of our Hearts fan. Are you still reeling from that I suppose minor Hibs victory on the final day of the season?
I think you're massively. That was a major Hibs victory. Unfortunately, I wasn't one of them, but a lot of people made deals with the devil that a certain other team might win a big competition. So
there we go.
Fingers crossed that falls dead on Sunday.
Right.
But yeah, no. All things.
Sorry
Hibs
about that, guys.
A lot
Just
better
thought
than
it
they
would be
were.
much better if I could see
just slightly
here.
prior to that was a scary time.
Well, as we are recording this, we're about 2 weeks into July. Teams are back in pre-season. Everyone's thoughts obviously turning to the season to come. But let's take a wee look back on last season and where Hibs finished. Harry, I'm wondering, with a little bit of hindsight and a little bit of time away, how you feel about how Hibs finished last season overall.
I think last season was fine. That's the word I'd probably say. Going into this season as well, the minimum I want Hibs to do is fifth. Assuming that we have a significantly better performance in both the cups. I think Europe does play a part in that. If we get a couple of good European wins, it'll sway it in the favour. But last season, if you take away obviously the other side of town and the cup performances, I think it was a pass marks, definitely.
What about Mark David Gray's stock in light of last season? Because we saw kind of as the season progressed, Hibs were kind of up and down, and the usual football fans, when their team's not doing well, crying out for the manager to go. But how do you think he is sitting going into the new season?
I think David Gray is sitting in a reasonably good place. I've seen a lot of managers have second season syndrome when they finish third. David Gray avoided that. If you look at Barry Robson at Aberdeen and Stephen Naismith at Hearts, they unravelled in their second season and ended up losing their jobs. David Gray was never in any danger of doing that. In fact, Hibs were largely on the coattails of the top four for most of the season. So I think his stock should remain very high. I think in terms of the boardroom, they still regard David Gray highly. I think some of the Hibs fans, maybe Harry might be a better place to say this than me, but I think some Hibs fans have been a bit frustrated with the evolution of the club under David Gray. But you have to remember he's a very, very young head coach. He's still learning on the job. And to give Hibs 2 European qualifications in a row is pretty unheard of. And that really should give him a decent bit of leeway going into this season. Hibs probably do need to improve a little bit, but ultimately, if you look at where Hibs have been prior to David Gray, under Nick Montgomery and Lee Johnson, I think they can be pretty happy with how the club has grown in the past 2 years. And that, for me, gives David Gray quite a lot of credit.
Harry, what do you make?
Yeah, not like I'm definitely on Mark's side of things, and I definitely look at the positives more than the negatives. I've went through a lot of bad experiences as a Hibs fan, as a lot of people my age have done as well. The main criticisms is I think David Gray plays winning football, so when things aren't going well and you're not winning games, doesn't look good at all, so you're not getting the entertainment side of the football. And there is the argument as well that we're probably spending more than we ever have before. So with the squad he's got, in theory, he should be getting the best possible results out of them. The main thing I want to see from him personally is I don't think that he's really done much to strengthen. Like, he doesn't optimise the middle of the park for me. I think Triantis went on a generational run when we went on that massive unbeaten streak, not last season but the year before, and then last year in the middle of the season when we picked up a lot of good results, Josh Mulligan was kind of filling that mould. I think Gray needs to find a way to essentially make defence, attack and the middle of the park all work at the same time, and he hasn't quite made that click yet, but I think if he can land on a solid balance in the midfield, I think Hibs have got a really good chance of having a great season.
The first European game is fast approaching, conference playoff on the 23rd of July. Noticed comments from David Gray saying he feels they're one step closer to being ready, made a couple of new signings. Mark, what kind of position do you think Hibs are in? Do you think they're in a strong position going into this European match next week?
Yeah, as strong as they could be, I think. They've not lost any marquee players. They've made 5 new signings, which Hibs have been notorious at times for getting their business done late. So I think actually they've got their squad in a good position. They should have enough to beat either Malasheva or Vlasnia Skoda, and that would get them into the third qualifying round. I think the other thing I'd say is that this team is a year on. It's much more experienced than it was this time last year. They came so close to fulfilling a really good European campaign by getting to the main phase of the Conference League, basically 3 or 4 minutes away from winning in Warsaw and getting through that tie. They're certainly resolute, Hibs. They're a stubborn team. I think they play well in the big matches by and large, and that means they should have a decent shot of it. Well, certainly progressing past the second qualifying round. And I know that everyone at Hibs, David Gray, the board, they're desperate to get into main phase European football. But the path is still going to be tough. They've got 3 qualifying rounds to go. And that they could come up against some really, really good teams. But I like the signings. I think they've got the key parts of the jigsaw in place. The spine of the team is there. That should allow them to go on a reasonable European run at the very least.
What for you then, Harry, as a Hibs fan? What do you think is realistic that Hibs can do in Europe? And what would you like? How far would you like to see them go?
I think David Gray proved last year that we can compete with teams that are much, much better than us, like the Midtjylland performance. I'm glad you pronounced the other 2 teams' names, Mark, that we're coming against. Cause
I was looking at them yesterday and I was like, there's no chance I'm saying either of these.
But the performance against them, and they ended up getting through the group stage. I think they ended up finishing second in the group stage, and Hibs were literally minutes away from beating them, and then we probably would have beat that Norwegian team that we would have came up against. So I just think the sky's the limit. I think unless we get an Aston Villa equivalent like we did the last time we were in the Europa League conference stage, and Legia Warsaw are a huge club. So for me, I don't see any fear. I think we should just keep pushing, and as long as we're competitive and as long as the fans that go over and watch the team feel like the team have actually put in a performance, I'm happy. Like some Hibs fans think put too much pressure on the club and aren't realistic. If we're realistic and just enjoy it for what it is, I'm happy, but that might just be me being a happy clapper. So yeah, essentially put in good performances and I'll be happy in Europe.
Not getting ahead of yourself though.
Yeah.
Right, we'll come on to signings because Mark, you touched on some of the new arrivals. What have you made, first of all, of the new signings? I know you touched on a second ago that you've been quite impressed with the business that they've done so far.
I think a lot of the new signings make sense. So Hibs need a centre half because Rocky Bushiri's got a long-term injury. Jason Kerr has been a player that I think has been linked with Hibs for as long as he's been on this planet. He's one of these guys that should have been at Hibs long before now. So I'm pleased that he's finally got his move. They also recruited at the top end of the pitch just a matter of days ago by signing Nathan Lowe, who is a young sort of target man number 9. Hibs really missed a target man last season. Nikola Kukarevic was really good in the kind of record-breaking season where they finished third, but it didn't really replace him properly. I think Nathan Lowe is sort of seen as the player that could do that. And they've obviously reinforced in midfield. They brought in Abdullah, they brought in Callum Wright, and they've also brought in a younger left-sided defender in Adam Mayer. So these are all positions that probably need strengthening. I think the one thing that probably worries Hibs fans a little bit is that there's two central midfielders that have come in there. That part of the team is very, very well stocked now. Does it mean that somebody's going to leave? And when I say somebody, I don't mean Alassane Mane. I mean someone like Miguel Chaiwa or Josh Mulligan. So you wonder if they are preparing for bids coming in. But ultimately, all the 5 signings so far, I think they look decent on paper, and they've plugged some holes in that Hibs squad that I feel needed to address.
Do you feel, Harry, that the squad are in a better position this year than they were kind of around about this time last year?
Yeah, I think so. Being honest, I couldn't put together what I think the starting 11 will be for Europe or for the league season starting. But I think the main thing is I'd love to see us add at least another wide option, just so we've actually got the potential to open it up and play with wingers, because I think that Mayer can kind of play slightly further advanced on the wing. But I think Boyle looks like a kind of more out and out attacker. But I think, as Mark said, we've recruited smart. I think we have taken quite a few gambles of late, and the club probably aren't wanting to take that risk again. If you look at like Cleege Mane, players that we spent decent money on that haven't really hit the ground running. So yeah, for me, I'm happy with the signings. I think that defensive midfield last season, I wasn't the biggest Ballister fan. I think that the best players under David Gray are athletic, and they need to be able to just essentially motor up and down the pitch for 90 minutes. I just don't think he in my opinion, like kind of held Hibs back quite a bit in bigger games. So the fact that we've got those midfielders, and it seems like we've got legs in the middle of the park, which I think we really need. Hopefully it means that we're going to actually press teams higher up the pitch, and the entertainment I said was lacking a bit at times last season will hopefully be there. So yeah, I think we're only 1 or 2 away from me saying I think we've filled out everywhere we need to.
You mentioned Harry Cleege there, Thibaut Cleege. He was kind of an interesting one, obviously signed for a club record fee, but 3 goals in 19 league appearances last term. Mark, do you think we could maybe see the best of him this season?
I'm unconvinced. I quite like Thibaut Cleege because he's got pace. He's quite tricky. He can finish. But whenever I watch him, he strikes me as a man in the wrong movie, a man that probably belongs in a different league than the Scottish League. When he signed, I thought he was Martin Boyle's natural replacement, and I often think that Hibs might have thought the same. But by the start of this year, the club clearly realised that it wasn't happening for Cleege. He wasn't settling in quite as well as they hoped. It's difficult coming from the Swiss leagues and the French leagues to the British leagues. So he went on loan to Randers in Denmark. Didn't really do much there either. Yes, he scored in pre-season against Cliftonville. But I think he needs to, not only does the coaching staff need to do a lot of work to get the best out of him, I think Cleege himself needs to do more as well. He's quite a quiet individual. I think he's quite shy. I think there's definitely ability there. I'm just not sure if he's the right match for this league. And I'm very happy to be proven wrong. The fact that you look at Hibs' striking options, I'm not sure we're going to see Cleege start their first match. I still think there are players that are going to be ahead of him in the front line. Boyle, Owen Elding, potentially Nathan Lowe. You just wonder sometimes if Hibs took a slight gamble on Cleege, and it hasn't quite happened for them.
It's an interesting one. One of the other interesting signings from the last season was Felix Paslak. Harry, he showed some good glimpses last season. I mean, are you expecting him to kind of really kick on now and show what he can do?
Yeah, I think he's just simply put one of our best players. I think he's just a very good football player who's probably versatile enough to play anywhere up the right-hand side for Hibs. He uses his lack of height to his advantage. Quite often you'll see high balls being launched towards him, but he knows how to play around that, and he's got the recovery speed as well. If players do get past him, he can actually make up for it. I think he's just a very good football player, and we've done a great bit of business by signing him. He obviously had one silly moment in a derby, but aside from that, I would have had him as our best player last season from January onwards. So for me, I think he's I know people hate cliches, but if you had a first name on the team sheet, he'd probably be mine.
Just looking then at the season overall, there was a lot. We spoke on this podcast a lot last season about Hibs actually probably doing quite well, but everything being overshadowed by what Hearts were doing. Mark, what do you think objectively would be seen as success for Hibs this coming season?
The baseline expectation for Hibs is to finish in the top 6. Don't do that, you're in big, big trouble. After that, you're looking at a European position. Ideally, you want third or better, but let's be realistic. And a reasonable run in both cups. That, for me, should be the expectation level of Hibs fans. Some derby victories as well. Derby victories can make even the most mundane season feel so much better. And I think, by and large, under David Gray, Hibs have achieved that. Last season, we talk about the other H word, Hearts. Let's be honest, Hearts' season and how close they got to winning the league, it probably made life much more difficult and much more uncomfortable for Hibs at every level, from fans right the way to the very top. And it's almost impossible not to judge a season when you've got through the eyes of others, when your rivals are doing so well. And I think Hibs fans do sometimes need to take a step back from that and just go, right, okay, this is what we are doing and what we can achieve. I think if Hibs can trouble the top 5, top 4 again, that for me is a more than acceptable season. One thing that Harry did mention, though, is the budget. Hibs' budget is a lot higher than it used to be. And I think what that does is brings added pressure. It probably means that you can't get away with finishing 6th now. You really do have to finish at least 5th to say, right, we've made strides. But they're going to be up against some fierce competition. And it's important that everybody at Hibs rises to that. And what happened across the city should act as it should spur Hibs on. It shouldn't make Hibs afraid. It should actually say, right, there's a challenge. Let's go and meet it head on.
Yeah. The other thing about that, Harry, does it put more pressure, do you think, from the fans on Hibs to achieve, have a similar level of achievement to what Hearts did? I know it can obviously, Mark mentioned, spurring the team on and thinking, look, they can do it, why can't we? But does it add that level of pressure as well?
I would hope it does, to be honest, and I don't just think it should apply for Hibs. I think that Hearts were in a situation where they didn't have Europe to contend with, as we touched on at the start, sometimes starting out in the League Cup and just being able to build up momentum into a season. So every team in the league should see how poor Celtic and Rangers are at the moment and that they are there for the taking. I know that both teams will be spending millions and hoping to be far away from what they were last year. But yeah, Hibs shouldn't have any cap on their expectations. If you win 5 of the first 6 games of the season, you're going to be in a really good spot and you'll be ready to compete. And I think a massive thing in Scottish football, especially with playing teams consecutively, is momentum. If you beat a team, like, sometimes you'll play them 3 weeks later, like, you just need to keep momentum going. So for me, I find it so hard to say how I think Hibs' season's actually going to go, because we just need to play competitive games. As we've said, we've signed 5 new players. I don't know how many they were actually going to feature initially in the starting lineup. So yeah, I hope there is pressure, but I hope they utilise that pressure in a positive way, because Gray has been historically quite good in the big games. So yeah, I think that added pressure will hopefully add to this Hibs squad.
Right. Well, before I let you go, let's do a little quick fire prediction round. Try and keep the answers as brief as you can. I say one word, but if you need a couple more, you can go for a couple more. I'll come to you first, Mark. Where do you think Hibs will finish this season?
4th.
Harry?
3rd, won the cabbage.
Who do you think will be Hibs Player of the Year, Mark?
Owen Elding.
Harry, I think I might know your answer.
I would say Mulligan, but I'll put an asterisk on, and then the backup will be Paslak.
Right, the new kit, Mark. From an outside looking in, are we liking it? Do we not like it?
Reebok, interesting. Yeah, not bad. Maybe a 6, 7 out of 10.
Harry?
I'll give it a 7 and it get higher. I just don't like the little bit at the bottom of I think the collar's fine. It's just that little line. No for me.
It's interesting hearing what people like the pernickety things people have about their team's kits. Right, Mark, how sugary is David Gray's peg going into the new season?
3 out of 10. I don't think it's that sugary.
Harry?
I think that for Hibs this season, I think Gray's peg is always going to be slightly, like, it's always going to feel closer than it is. I think at the moment I'd agree like a 3 or 4, but I think if you lose the first 3 games of the season, it's instantly at an 8. I wouldn't agree with that, but I just think that fans just want this season to be successful.
And finally, Mark, a word to sum up the new season for Hibs, how you think it's going to go?
Intriguing.
Okay. Harry?
Potential.
Nice. That was a good one. That was a good choice. Well, time to wrap things up. Many thanks to Mark and Harry, and thank you very much for listening. Remember, we are doing preview episodes for each Premiership team, so check them out on our feed if you get the chance. And to keep up to speed with everything you need to know about the national game, and to be alerted when new episodes are out, subscribe to the Scottish Football Podcast on BBC Sounds and have push notifications turned on in your phone settings. Thank you very much for joining us, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Hi, this is Ellis James. It's the middle of the night. You've just been following a World Cup match. Now you can't sleep because your body clock is all over the place. Well, we've got a playlist for that. Hear people like me and Kelly Cates calmly reading scorelines from historic World Cups over soothing music.
Austria 1, Sweden 0.
Just search Sleep Goals in BBC Sounds.